Hi, welcome back to the deeper dive version of 26 Minutes with David Cohen here, and I'm with our fabulous guest today, Ondra Nemcik, and we're talking about his journey to heal, overcome bullying, overcome, a sort of a very demanding, strict childhood at home. And basically, Andra, what I got, from understanding you and hearing of, talking to you before what we're doing today and then, you leaving Czech Republic at 20, you've been on a hero's journey. And the hero's journey, I just want to share what it is for those that don't know, is the common template of stories that involve a hero. So you're the hero who goes on an adventure, and you're victorious in a decisive crisis, and then comes home changed or transformed. Earlier figures had proposed similar concepts, including psychoanalyst Otto Rank and the amateur anthropologist Lord Raglan. Eventually, hero myth pattern studies were popularized by Joseph Campbell, and who wrote The Hero's Journey. And it's been influenced by Carl Jung's analytical psychology. Campbell used the monomyth to analyze and compare religions. And in his famous book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, in 1949, he describes the narrative pattern as follows. The hero's journey, or the hero ventures forth from the world of the common day into a region of supernatural wonder. Fabulous forces are there encountered, and a decisive victory is won. The hero comes back from his mysterious adventure with the power to bestow boons on his fellow man. Does that kind of feel right for you?
Yeah, I feel like the victory is not all the way there yet. It's still very much on the journey. But yeah, absolutely. I think about this sometimes as well, because in Czech Republic, maybe in Europe in general, there are very popular um, fairy tales of an ordinary guy from the village goes out into the world, leaves home, and goes on an adventure to find gold and to marry a princess, for example, right? Like those are very popular fairy tale stories from like the medieval ages, where there's knights and people just riding horses, no technology, nothing like this. And yeah, it almost represents that as well, going
Yeah.
out and figuring out things. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It does. Now, have you gone back home since your journey of discovery began?
I have. Yeah, I've been home a bunch of times.
And how was the response? Did people that knew you back in when you were like 10, 11, 12, 13? So did people that knew you then, do they treat you the same way now, or have they noticed a transformation in you?
Okay, so it depends. Some of them don't, some of them do. When it comes to some of my close friends and family, it's usually still like similar. Um, Now I think it's gonna be very different now that I've been gone for the past 10 months basically. I've been in Asia, which was the first time that I went to a different continent, haven't came back yet. So now it might be a little bit different again when I come back, but before that it was more so just like still normal and people at least like trying to be normal, like I've had some people say like, hey, you've changed and you're more confident now, you seem better, you seem more happy, you seem like, more sure of yourself and all these things. But yeah, it wasn't to the level of like somebody saying, hey, you're completely different, I can't believe this. And we were talking about the bullies. I remember one instant where I was living in abroad, like I was living in the Netherlands for maybe 8 months or something. And I remember I went to hang out with some of my old friends, and I didn't know, but one of my old school bullies was there as well, right? But I didn't really care, I didn't really talk to him, whatever. And I remember one of my good friends was there, and for whatever reason, the bully was there as well. And I asked the question, like, how is life here in Czech Republic? And this is how I asked, like, how is life here in Czech Republic? Because I was living abroad for 8 months or so, right? And before anybody could ever say something, the bully was like, I don't know if he was jealous or if he wanted to get back at me still, right? Still hated me or for some reason, whatever. And he said something like, "Man, you're talking like you've been living in America for the past 10 years, like you're better than us or something." I'm like, no, I just asked, because I didn't tell him, and I didn't, want to speak back to him or whatever. I didn't really care. But I remember thinking like, hey, like still this guy still hasn't changed,
No.
still very negative, still living a bad life. And then once he left, we kind of talked about it, and my other friends kind of apologized, like, hey, sorry about him, whatever. Um, and I said, yeah, like what I wanted to say was, yeah, I've been gone for the past 4 months, and since I left, my parents got divorced and my grandpa died, and that's why I was at home, right? I went to the funeral. So I was like gone for 8 months, but a lot has happened in my life, at least. So much, right? Big things, big events, and very well, bad events as well. But I didn't say that to him. I told that to my friends, and they knew why I was at home and what was happening. Um, but yeah, like even sometimes people that just don't change and they try to take you down, and it didn't really affect me much. I just remember it and I just say like, some people just will try to bully you more and more, whatever you do. And yeah, so as in how people were responding to me, I think there it became more of a like jealousy almost, or like anger, that I was going out there, I was living the life, I was exploring different countries, and I was making 4 times the amount of money that they were making, and they were stuck in school in the same small town, whereas I went out to Amsterdam, which is like a very popular city in Europe. I was meeting new people and having a good life. So I think it was a lot of also jealousy and suppressed anger.
So you talk about confidence a few times in our interview, and you help others now to be happy and to develop confidence, and you work a lot with youth and youth entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Where did this goal of, I know you went on a journey to be happy and do the things you needed to do. Where did this goal of then helping others discover how to be happy develop?
Right. So I have to take it a step back a little bit.
Okay.
After that small period of 13 to 15, when I said like that was my incubation kind of time
Yeah.
before I started going out. When I was 15, I started like really challenging it, and I actually started introducing myself to girls on the bus on my way to school, and that's how I like overcame my social anxiety, and that's how I learned to speak to people and speak to strangers and be more comfortable around people as well. That was like a big event, big thing that happened to me. And why I say it is because it was a very important event, because 2 years prior to that, it felt like it was absolutely impossible for me to do something like this. I didn't think I could ever do that. And then here we go, 2 years later, voila, I was talking to girls and talking to strangers on the bus. And so I achieved something that felt completely impossible. And this is important because a couple years later, as I was still, continuing to learn more and develop myself more, continuing to go outside of my comfort zone and learning more about life, I started getting, that's when I already started getting compliments and people coming back to me and saying, hey, like, you're different, what's going on, right? It was before I left, before I ever left Czech Republic still, right? And people were saying stuff like, hey, you're one of the happiest people I've ever met. What's your secret? These kinds of things. And when I said, well, when it would be new people, I would say, well, I used to be super depressed, like, and they wouldn't believe me. I say, hey, I couldn't speak to anybody, and people like wouldn't even believe me at this point, right? So I knew I discovered something that was so important that completely changed my life, and nobody knew about it, and I didn't learn it in school. I had to go out and find it myself, right? So I knew I had something that I wanted to share. And I knew if I was struggling with social anxiety, thousands of other people would as well. So at first, it was really just, I want to help people. And I always since not always, but maybe since around 18, 19, I knew that I wanted to help people with confidence and I wanted to make videos about it and stuff like this. And then it layered on as I discovered, well, a lot of people make a living online and they make money online and they travel a lot. And I was like,
Mhm.
I was at this point, I was like very curious still, right? About I want to go to see different cultures. I want to go to see different countries. It was way before I ever moved out, and I already knew I wanted to do it. And at this time, I was like already again that event of doing something that felt impossible. I remembered that and motivated me like, hey, okay, making money online and going traveling, this all seems impossible to me now. But I've already done something that was impossible before. So who says I cannot do something that's more impossible? So I that's where this kind of even belief of like maybe I can do it and I'm gonna at least give it a shot came from. And then I discovered that there is a business model and that there are people who are making money by teaching these things that I've already learned and using the story that I've been through, that I can turn it into a business. And I discovered people like Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, and this is where I started having like mentors that I was like, I'm gonna follow these people a lot. And yeah, so that's where it kind of all came from, where I knew I wanted to help people first. And then I was like, okay, I can make money from it as well and live this dream life of traveling to different countries, just making money online. And it all came together, yeah.
Imagine if you weren't curious, and then and you gave into the negative or the dark aspect of you at 13, and you said, no, there's no possibility I'm taking my life, right? But you thought there was something more, you were going to explore that. That was brilliant. And then look at this, now you're turning it into a business, and you're doing the laptop business. Another guy, I don't know if you've studied Jeff Walker, the PLF formula, or the product launch formula, like selling your content online. And it's usually a lot of people are taking their stories, their gifts, or their pain, and they're turning it into a business. Like, I got over it, here's how. So and then the other thing I find really nice about your story is that, and your journey, is that you had a bit of a why not, like, let's see attitude. And I also feel like something shifted in you, that you started to embrace that, hey, I'm worthy of it. Yeah. So where did, like, how, when did it shift in you that you were worthy and confident, worthy to live and do things you wanted to do? Where did that sort of all of a sudden start to, that worthiness, like, I'm worthy of asking girls out. I'm worthy of, being healthy and well and abundant, and I'm worthy of traveling. Where did that start to show up?
That's a very, very interesting question. And I think it comes in like different parts. I would say that, well, when it comes specifically, like you ask, I'm worthy of asking girls out. For me, that was never really about am I worthy of it or not. That didn't never crossed my mind. Like, am I good enough for this? For me, it was well about personal growth. Because if for me, I was thinking this way, like, and again, problem solving, right? My problem, social anxiety.
Mhm.
What is the solution for that? The solution for that is going out and challenging it and overcoming it by speaking to people and learning how to speak to people and learning how to ask questions, how to communicate, how to listen to people. Right. And I knew I needed to do that in practice because I was learning a lot about it. Don't get me wrong, I was learning all the theory, all the videos, all the articles, all the books. One of the biggest books, of course, is How to Win Friends and Influence People by
Yeah,
Dale Carnegie. Right. I
yeah.
read that so early on in life. Right. So I knew the theory, but I couldn't do it in practice. And so for me, it wasn't, am I worthy of this or not? I don't remember that crossing my mind ever. I was like, I need to learn to do this. And that's what's going to help me. This is the solution for my own problem. So you know, I also, because I had this approach, that's what helped me, you know, not think about am I worthy of it or not, because I wasn't, my goal wasn't, hey, I want to get the girl's number. I didn't care if I get the number or not. I cared about overcoming that fear and becoming better at doing it. That was my end goal. So I knew that I'm good enough to actually at least try. And I knew that if I'm going to do all this, I'm going to get better. So that's where I was like, okay, am I worthy or not? Didn't really think about that. When it came to the business, however, when it came to living the dream life, that's where it was like, and especially helping people and sharing my story, that's where it was like a lot of imposter syndrome. Like, I'm not good enough. I'm too young to help people with their life. I'm too young to talk about mindset or happiness or success or achieving things. And that's where I get a lot of got a, even more, lot more pushback from my family, and that's where it all even started, this insecurity of I'm not good enough, because my mom said, who's going to listen to your life advice? You're a 20-year-old kid, right? You've never accomplished anything, because she didn't see my own journey. And you know, from the outside, when you're struggling with mental health issues and insecurities and stuff, nobody really knows, only you know, right? So a lot of these people didn't really know what I was actually going through at, you know, and kind of not being allowed to go to therapy, just get over it. And it wasn't, it was partly about money, but it wasn't just about money. It was just, hey, just get over it, mental health issues don't exist. So they didn't believe that I achieved something. They didn't know, right? And then they didn't think that I achieved anything. So they were like, who's going to listen to your life advice? You never achieved anything. And that's when I kind of started thinking, hey, okay, I need to be successful first. I need to make a lot of money first, and then I'll be worthy of sharing my story. I'll be able to help people. And so that's why in the beginning, a lot of the business efforts that I tried was
Hmm.
not really coaching. I knew that coaching is eventually what I want to do, but I had this belief, first I have to become successful, then I can help people.
And has
And
that shifted?
right, yeah. So how I was looking for a lot of affiliate marketing courses and drop shipping courses, these things, and it never really worked out. And I didn't have enough well, knowledge. I didn't know anything about business at the time, right? My mom is a cleaning lady. How could I know something about business? So there was a lot of just trial and error. Everything basically failed. And then I discovered, well, Tony Robbins, where, you know, it was really like hyped up, and they were talking about the knowledge industry specifically and selling courses, selling knowledge already. And I was like, wow, okay, well, that's what I eventually want to do. Maybe, you know, there's something here for me to learn now, and maybe I can start it later, and I'm just going to have some of the insights. And on one of the challenges and one of the groups, I met, well, a coach. A business coach, and she had her own challenge, and it was a free challenge, 5-day challenge or something. It was create your irresistible offer challenge. I remember this specifically. And I went through the challenge, and I was just like, you know, just for the fun of it, I'm going to create an irresistible offer when it comes to coaching, when it comes to confidence, just for the fun of it, you know. I was like, I'm not going to launch it, but just for the fun of it. And because I was like, I loved what the content was, I was participating a lot, and she had rewards for if you did all the homework and if you participated in the challenge actively, you joined everything live and stuff like this. I wanna think it was second place or something, first or second place of the challenge, and it was a free coaching session with her, right? And on that coaching session, she helped me break the pattern, the belief of I'm too young, so I cannot do this yet. And I remember specifically, she asked me like, because I was talking about all these business models that I tried and it never really worked. And she said, well, okay, well, what do you really want to do? And I was like, well, I want to do coaching. I want to help people with confidence. I want to help people be happier, change their mindset, change their habits. That's what I did. That's what changed my life. I really want to do that. But I'm too young, and nobody's going to listen to me. So I need to be successful first. Tell me a business where I can be first successful. And she was like, no, like this is the business where you're going to be successful because your heart is there. And if somebody's telling you you're not good enough because you're not old enough, you don't have the experience, they don't know, and you do have the experience, you do have the story, you do have your own transformation as proof that you know what you're talking about, and you just need to find one or two people who will, you know, connect with your story. You will help them. That will give you the proof of you can do this, and people will believe in you, and people will trust you. And that's what I did. And after that coaching session, after that challenge, I started my own Facebook group and I started really going deep into making content about personal growth into mindset. So it was a combination of all of these things where I did believe that I'm not good enough, but I had someone else at this time where it really helped me break that kind of belief. Yeah.
Yeah, they validated you. I remember a young woman I taught and coached an entrepreneur training program years ago, and she was 21, getting into the home staging business. So she would call on real estate agents who were generally in their 40s and 50s, about them hiring her to do home staging. Once if one of their clients were selling their house, she would go in and make it look really nice. And they all laughed at her and said, no, they didn't laugh, but they kind of like didn't trust her. Like, you're too young. Like you're only what, you're 20, 21. She said, yeah. So this is how she came back. This is how she overcame that objection. She said, you're right, I am too young. Or I am young. Because how are you going to get away from being 20 or 21? That's who she is. And she said, but with being young, and I've just gone through a entrepreneur training program. I'm very dedicated to being good at what I do. I work really hard for my customers. I love what I do. I'm really super creative, and I've got really neat ideas. So if you want to work with somebody like that, I'd love to work with you. So she totally turned it around, and now the real estate agent is going, yeah, I do want to work with somebody like that. And then she started to get business. It's like you can't hide from who you are, but you can tap into your journey, your win of overcoming anxiety and mental health and those kind of issues. You can share that and all you've done and your methodology of running every morning at 5 a.m., bumping into your mom on the way to work. This is an amazing story and journey, and I'm so glad I had you and you said yes to being a guest today. You're working predominantly though with youth, are you not, Ondra? Are you working?
So I would say these this time around it's maybe 60% youth, and then I do have a lot of client. Well, not a lot, but I do have some clients who are twice my age or almost three times my age. And talking about being too young and flipping it around, um, that haunted me almost still for a long time because I did get so much of the pushback. It's not just my mom who was saying, "Hey, you're too young to be a coach. You're too young to help people with their life." But it was also a lot of people on the internet, right? So I would get this so much. I still get it. I don't really care much now, but it would still affect me a lot until I had my first client who was older than me. Well, not just a little bit older, but a lot older. I was 22 at the time, and she was 44, so literally twice my age.
Yeah.
And when I was kind of asking her in the first coaching session, so why did you sign up and why did you sign up with me? And she said specifically, well, I signed up with you because you're so young and because you have a fresh perspective, because you have a very young energy. And in a lot of ways, she was kind of laughing about it, but she said, well, in a lot of ways, life couldn't beat you down yet. So that naivety sometimes that you might have as a young person is going to help you without being jaded. And I'm more searching for that energy. I need that in my life. I need more of that. So she helped me completely flip it around as well and turn my youth as a coach into a superpower as a coach instead of into this whole thing of no, like you cannot do it. And then of course the thing that I grew up with technology and I know how to navigate the new world with technology helps a lot as well, especially in getting people into business. And that's where I get a lot of older people as well, um, with the young perspective, with the technology perspective, and with of course social anxiety itself as well. Because believe it or not, I was kind of shocked, but a lot of older people still struggle with social anxiety and they reach out for my help. So yeah, it definitely, I was definitely able to flip it all around completely as well into a superpower instead
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
a flaw.
It's become a superpower being young. And instead of focusing on the downside of being a younger entrepreneur. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to do. You need to shift it around. Are any of us perfect at coaching at any age? No, but we all bring our own gifts and our wisdom and our life story. In terms of working with youth, what challenges are youth going through in 2023 that you want to transform in your business? Like, what's the transformation you want to take youth entrepreneurs or just youth in general? What's the transformation you want to see have happen in them? But what are some of the challenges they're going through too?
Okay. Especially with what I have with is well, I say this term of social anxiety, but it really, it's a scale, and I say some people say I don't have social anxiety, and then I'm like, okay, what are you sometimes a little bit shy because shyness is like a light version of social anxiety, but this is a big problem, especially when it comes to in-person interactions, and this is where the technology and the negative side of technology comes in. Whereas, we're all used to always be on our phone and do texting instead of talking to people, and being on dating apps instead of going out and talking to people over there, or even with we don't even call each other anymore. Instead of hearing the voice, you're always on text. Instead of speaking to people, you go on social media and you scroll, right? So that causes all sorts of havoc in young people, and especially social anxiety, especially being shy, insecure, not knowing how to communicate, not knowing how to speak to people. And for me, I have this, again, kind of how my story and how the negative parts of my story turned into very, very good parts is I was pushed or forced since early age to find out how I can use technology to improve my life instead of making it worse. So I was very active with searching out the information and then trying it out and then taking it into my real world, real life. And I was very good at I became very good at using social media and using technology to be social and to become more social instead of becoming less social, right? So that's really the biggest transformation. One of the biggest transformations that I want to bring to people, and especially the young generation, is learn to use social media and use to learn these technologies for personal growth and for becoming more social instead of becoming less social. And instead of losing our touch with humanity, I say that one of my missions is to help create a healthier relationship between humanity and technology. Because for a lot of people, I think you can agree, if you go out and for example, you go into a restaurant and you see that the kid, 3-year or 5-year-old kid, isn't talking to anybody, but is on the iPad or on the
Yeah,
phone, just
yeah,
watching videos, right?
yeah.
It's become so normal. Of course, it affects their brain. Of course, they're not going to be able to interact with each other in real life because they grew up with a tablet everywhere or with the phone everywhere, right? So my whole thing is, well, I want to reach parents with this mission, with this message as well, of course, because I see something like this and I'm scared, right? I see people in restaurant, kids in restaurant, not talking to anybody, or not. It's much better to just sit there and be bored and listen to people than be distracted on the iPad. So I want to reach both young people and also parents, and I'm talking to a lot of parents and people. I have a lot of all the friends who homeschool kids, for example, and stuff like this. That we talk about this is creating a healthier relationship between humanity and technology, because the technology is here. It's here to stay. It's here to become more persuasive and more integrated in our life, and we need to make sure that we are not losing touch with our humanity
Yeah,
while we're becoming integrated with technology.
I
So
agree.
that's really one of my messages.
Yeah. And your other message, of course, is to help others, find their happiness and to feel confident and to believe in themselves. And then you take them on a journey that you went through as a young man or young teenager or preteen. You know what I also see is that, in the hero's journey, we talked about, you've chosen a life, Ondra, of adventure, learning, seeking wisdom, sharing your gospel and your truth, so to speak. This journey of adventure and change, to me, I think that's what God wants us to all do. Like, it's like so many people, as young men and women, we all need to go and do what you've done, really, and live life like an adventure rather than get caught in the rut of the same old, or the grind, the 9 to 5 grind. How would you encourage other young people to embrace living life like an adventure or a discovery? You know, how would you encourage other young people to do what you kind of did?
I would say you only live once, first of all. Second of all, is the biggest regrets. There's been a study done that people on their deathbeds, their regrets are never about what they did, but it's always about what they didn't do because they were too scared or they didn't believe in it. And so those would be like the two. And then the number three is your biggest gifts and the best experiences in life will always be on the other side of your comfort zone or of your fear. So if there's something that you're afraid of, go after it. Make it a goal to overcome it. Make it a challenge. And that's how I discovered all of these things. Why I was able to go on this life of adventure. And it all started with my problem is social anxiety. I'm very scared of doing this, but I will do it. And I will make it a goal. I will make it an obstacle that I want to overcome instead of hiding away from it. So instead of hiding away from your challenges, your goals, your fears, go out there and make it a goal to overcome it. And I also call this, it's a gift wrapped in sandpaper. And you have to unwrap the sandpaper which is very hard, it's difficult, it's uncomfortable. But
Yeah.
once you unwrap it, you will discover that gift. And my gift, for example, is speaking out, going out there, hosting events and speaking about my journey, speaking about communication and social anxiety and these technologies. I would have never discovered it, and I absolutely love to do what I do, right? And I'm doing what I love. I'm traveling the world. I'm having a very amazing life while contributing and helping others, right? I would have never discovered it if I said, okay, I have social anxiety and I will always have it and I will not make it. I would have never unwrapped this gift. I would have never discovered it if I just said, oh, this is sandpaper. I want to stay away from it because it's uncomfortable. It hurts. Oh no, it hurts. I'm not going to do it. So because I unwrapped it, that's where I found the gift. So your biggest gift is wrapped in sandpaper, and you need to unwrap it to discover it. And one last thing is what I like to say is alone you are strong, but together we're unstoppable. So there's no chance I could have done this by myself. It seems like sometimes it might seem like it all came from me. It didn't. Like I had a lot of people who helped me along this journey. Especially this young, I would have never been here if I didn't have other people who helped me, right? So don't be afraid to go out there and ask for advice or learn from others and brainstorm with others. And I've created all sorts of masterminds and groups that we would meet every week, to help each other and stuff like this. And that's why I was able to get here relatively early and fast in life. So alone you are strong, but together we're unstoppable. So reach out to someone, collaborate with someone, work on these things with someone.
Yeah. And as you look back, maybe in retrospect, maybe the bullies helped you get to where you are today, because
Absolutely.
if they weren't there, and we all have those people in our lives, like I had a work situation last year where the work colleague was like, it was like brutal, like never showed up, late, didn't follow through, didn't, it's like, what? And I was a contractor to the organization. They were an employee. And I went, oh man, I can't work like this. Like, you got to show up to meetings. What do we have to do? You got to be on time. He was never on time. You got to, it just, so it actually caused me, it was so much like, it was so aggravating and going, no, work shouldn't be this aggravating, that it caused me to say, listen, I'm contracted, I know, for a year of this. I'm just going to do this one intake. It was a training program. I'll finish, I'll complete it, I'll do everything I can to make it work. But after that, you've got to. I'm out. I'm not going to follow through. And I even said I have other people if you want to talk to and interview who can replace me. Like I just went. I didn't want to leave them in a lurch, and I gave them months like notice, right? So I look back on that relationship, and what I got was I needed that guy, as aggravating as he was, to be in my life to get me to move forward to where I'm going now, right? And you needed the bullies and your mom, and yeah.
Yep.
As you what's next? Well, we talked about what's next in your business, but what is next in your business? Where do you want to take it?
I want to do more speaking, more events. I want to definitely reach more people, and both young people and both older people, and specifically parents when it comes to kids, because I do understand that young people and kids are the future, right?
Yeah.
So I do want to especially impact my generation and the younger generations, especially when it comes to the technology, because I feel like that's really, really going to be important. So that's really what I want to do. I have some speaking events booked on some TV shows and stuff. So
Eh,
that's very exciting already. That's very exciting already for me as well. And I'm also launching a community for this is more also for young entrepreneurs and young freelancers and stuff. So we can meet every week and encourage each other. Because I discovered that a lot of these groups, personal growth groups and business groups that I would join, it's mostly people 35 and up, 40s and up. And while that's amazing and I love being in those and will never leave those groups, it's still like, yeah, I need some younger people who are doing the same thing. I'm
yeah.
still feeling kind of isolated, kind of alone in being the only young or one of the few young people doing this. So having a community of young people doing this as well helps. So that's where I'm starting, and like it's like a membership where we meet every week, and we're gonna have some exciting events and stuff. It's called Human Connection Project, and it's both based on communication and networking and
Excellent.
creating deep conversation, deep relationships. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Now, as you reflect, um, are you happy today, or is there still maybe a hole or an ache that creeps in on occasion?
Oh, absolutely creeps in on occasion. I would say one thing that I learned is that happiness kind of is a habit. It comes from inside. And sometimes, there's something outside that happens that you cannot control and kind of tips off the scale. And it is up to you to get yourself back to it. And definitely, I still get into pretty low emotional state sometimes. And I think that's normal.
Mm,
And I'm not trying to be happy all the time, even though like it is my standard to, control my state and try to live in a beautiful state no matter what's happening,
yeah.
no matter if I have no money or no matter if I'm super rich or whatever happens. But sometimes, you just cannot control it. And so yeah, absolutely, I do get unhappy, and I've just become a lot better at dealing with it and becoming happy again. Instead of so, for example, something bad happens, and instead of being stuck in there for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, it takes me maybe a day or a couple hours until when I'm able to kind of process it and get myself back into a happy, positive, excited state and grateful state.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I would say about that.
That's amazing. And it's I go through that too as an older man. Something will maybe trigger. And what I do is actually like I call them pajama days. So maybe I'll take a Saturday just not do anything and sleep or rest and recalibrate. And then it's like, okay, back to the good habits, exercise, seeing people, working on my business, yeah, it's like, okay, you've had your time to wallow. Now it's
Yeah.
time to move on.
Yep.
Um, uh, um, so, okay, well, a couple of last questions. 3 years from now, and you're on the cover of Inc. magazine
Okay.
as a 30 under 30 success story. What does the article say about you?
It tells my story, a little bit of my story of where I began, where I studied, and well, that would be one thing for sure. Second thing would be the impact that I've created. So let's say you said 3 years from now.
Yeah.
Okay, so the number would be over 1,000 people personally impacted and helped build confidence and get themselves out of social anxiety and use technology in a healthy way. And thing number, and the last thing would be traveled to 3 years from now, let's say 35 countries. That's kind of probably doable. Travel to 35 countries and hosted events and doing free hugs. Yeah, that's something that definitely the article's going
Oh
to
yeah,
say
you
about
do
me.
free hugs.
Is doing free hugs, because that's something that we didn't really talk about
I
on
know.
the podcast yet. But yeah, I do a lot of free hugs. Basically, every country where I go, I have a sign that says free hugs, and I stand in a crowded place where we're spreading positivity and of course putting ourselves in front of rejections and judgments to push my confidence and believe in myself more, right? But at the same time, spread positivity and kindness. So that's definitely something that I'm gonna keep up, and that when somebody writes about me, it's gonna be a thing that they mentioned in the article. I've already, when I did it in Thailand, there was a news reporter who made a short documentary about me for Thai news.
Oh,
So
cool.
that's an achievement already that I have.
Yeah. Way to go. I love it. Free hugs. For me, I have a Facebook group called the Peace, Passion, Prosperity Project. And we're just spreading positive information every day. And people like it, like because we're so bombarded by all the negative stuff.
Oh yeah.
It's like, oh, enough. It's sometimes it's enough. As we wrap up again, where sorry, where do our listeners connect with you again? So I know you shared it before on the 26 minutes
Yes.
with version, but for those maybe tuning in this time, where do we?
Yes. You can go to my LinkedIn. There's going to be a link down below wherever you're watching or listening to this. Linktree is a super simple page where you can find all the additional information. You can find my social media over there, as well as specifically what I do and how I help people. There's my website there, there's everything. So that's one place where you can find everything. If you want to connect with me, you can. All of it is over there. Yeah.
Excellent. Ondra Nemcik, thank you for this today. I so appreciate having you and meeting you, and I think we're going to work together. We already talked about that as well, and I'm really happy you agreed to be our guest today. I mean, you're just just keep going, man, and I'm there supporting you too. Okay.
Thank
Um,
you.
Thank you. To those that listen to us and follow us on 26 Minutes With and the Deeper Dive, remember it's a show that we want to inspire you. And if you want to connect with Ondra, just click the links below. Make sure you like and share what we're doing, because it's a show that honors those who are leading, making an impact and creating positive change on the planet and locally. I'm your host, David Cohen. Next week, we're going to talk about men's healing with Gordon Melville and his mission to help men avoid taking their own lives. It's going to be interesting. Gordon's quite a remarkable man, and we'll be back next week. Have a great week, everyone. Stay well, stay blessed. And Ondra, thank you so much, man.